had a chance to look around.
You're lucky it's cool.
I know, that's what we
That's what
kept
we were
hearing.
told. We
I mean,
told
coming from New
everybody.
York, it feels like it's pretty hot, but obviously it gets hotter. It goes up to what, 110?
140 in the summer, inside.
Inside air-conditioned buildings?
No, in the tents.
In 140. That's very hot.
When it's hot outside, like 115, 120.
All right, we are good to go here. I feel like it's got a good image, and he's framed and mic'd. Isabel?
Yeah. So, on immigration enforcement, how are you America's toughest sheriff?
Actually, it's the world, because I have been interviewed by over 3,000 foreign, international television and magazines. And I say that because it shows the interest, not only in our country, but around the world that they have, maybe on the criminal justice system, maybe on my programs, maybe on the sheriff. I would like to take a little credit. It has to do with me, too. I am controversial. On the other hand, I've been in law enforcement 48 years, sheriff 17, police officer in Washington, D.C., Las Vegas, Nevada. Big career was with the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, 27 years. Yes.
Speaking about the controversial, some of your controversial policies that have attracted a lot of press attention around the world, one of the things that we saw today when we were visiting Tent City was the pink underwear that all the male inmates wear. Could you talk about the rationale for that?
Yeah, but the reason I mention my background, because I did serve as regional director in Mexico, lived in Mexico City, had offices in Panama, Argentina, was a federal agent, the only one in Turkey, in the Middle East, head of DEA at Texas and Arizona, 3 different assignments. So I just bring that out because of illegal immigration problems. As far as the pink underwear, I guess I'll go down in history. They'll remember me. Usually they forget you in the first hour, but they'll remember me for 24 hours because of the pink underwear.
What's the pink underwear about?
Well, I always have 2 reasons to do things. One is the official reason, and one's my reason.
So what's your reason?
On the white underwear, they were stealing, smuggling underwear out of the jails when they're being discharged. Our officers would look under their belt to see, if they have any stolen underwear. But if it's white, since everybody wears white underwear, it's pretty hard to distinguish. And they were selling the underwear on the streets, the inmates, when they were discharged from jail. So I had an idea. Let's put the inmates in pink, because nobody wears pink underwear. So when you check out and we see it's pink, we know it's ours.
So that was the official reason. What was your
personal reason? Is they hate pink, at least in this county. So you never give them anything they like. So if they don't like pink, that's why they have pink.
Coming back to the point you were talking about how many interviews you've done with international media. One thing that is quite interesting to me, I did an MA in communications, is to see how much media coverage you have gotten as the sheriff of a county in Arizona. And I'm just wondering, how do you think you managed to get out there? I mean, even there's a report that a left-wing group recently put out that actually documented that you'd appeared on CNN something like 21 times
I don't
in the
know
last
about
year.
that.
So you're certainly out there. I don't know about international media, but in the American media, you're really out there. You're a prominent spokesperson in the immigration debate. Why do you think that
it's not only immigration. That happens to be the current situation. I've been in 2020, 60 Minutes, you name it, way before illegal immigration. To answer your question, I think it's a personal philosophy that I have. I'm the elected sheriff. I serve the 4 million people that live in this county, one of the largest in the country. I'm elected. I don't report to any governor or bureaucrat, politician. I report directly to the people. The people deserve to know what I'm doing. I don't run a CIA operation. If you want to go to the tents, you want to go to the jails, be my guest. I have nothing to hide. Who else, whether you talk about prisons or jails, allow media to go in there go talk? Who cares what they hear? You understand? So since I'm elected, I feel that I should go to the media, through the media to the people. And once again, I don't run a secret organization. When I get called a publicity hound, which I'm sure that you will ask me, and maybe you won't, but my answer to you will be, if you do ask me that, you called me. I didn't call you. And I tell everybody that. And they don't know how to answer it. Now, should I say no? I'm not going to talk to you? Would you rather talk to a PIO, public information officer, to some sergeant? Or would you rather talk to the sheriff? How many times do you see chiefs of police being interviewed? Unless they're giving out an award. Everybody hides behind their public information officer. I don't. People want to hear from me. So when you say you're always on television, they call me. Can you take a breath? I never get a call. Hello? Yeah. Sunday. No, a week. I'm being interviewed now. Yes, Sunday. Thanks. I'm going to Florida, a meeting. I'm sorry.
So how is it that you are America's, or the world, as you say, top, or how is it that that you are America's
I don't know.
toughest sheriff
On
immigration? What kinds of policies are you dealing with here to enforce immigration laws?
Well, once again, I want to go back and say that my first book, America's Toughest Sheriff, that was 1996. Had nothing to do with immigration. Everybody's always saying because of immigration. I've been the sheriff almost 17 years. So I've already had my foundation in my so-called notoriety way before illegal immigration.
Right. We're focusing mostly in this interview on immigration policies.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you quite a lot about that,
All
understanding that you have a whole past history as well. One of the things that we saw in Tent City was that there was a cordoned off area that had been created, a fence around the illegal immigrants who were being held in custody. Could you explain the rationale for that?
Well, first of all, I took a lot of heat. The Justice Department is investigating me on garbage fed to them by a couple local officials. That I put 250 illegals that have not been convicted in the tents. First of all, they're all convicted. Number one.
Of what?
Of any type of crime. It has nothing to do with illegal immigration. They happen to be illegal, but they've been convicted of all different types of crimes.
What are the most common ones that they've been
Well, in the
convicted of?
tents, we don't put murderers in the tents. So it could be any type, from DUIs to not paying child support, burglary, you name it.
Are these mostly people who've been arrested by the human smuggling unit?
No. These are people arrested by law enforcement, because everybody arrested by police departments come to us. We have the jails. There are no city jails. So they come to us. When they are sentenced, convicted, if they're up to a year, they do the time in the jails. I decided to put those convicted people in the tents like I put all convicted people in the tents. When you said that you went in there, we have tents just for illegals, we have 20 other people in the same tents.
No, they were separated. That's what we were shown. They were the people with
I
ice
know.
holds on them, and they were separated in a separate.
But there are others in that same tent that are not illegals.
But everybody who has an ice hold on them, we were told, is kept in
Yeah.
that particular fenced-off
Along
area.
with others in that particular fence. Those that have been convicted, same thing, but they have to go when they're discharged to another jurisdiction to stand trial for other crimes. So what these tents are holding tents, because it's easier when they do their time to either turn them over to ICE to be deported or turn the others over to be sent to another city to stand trial. So we don't just have illegals in that compound, we have anyone that has to be sent somewhere else.
And what percentage is illegal immigrants versus other people?
Well, there's a high percentage of illegals.
So mostly? Would you say mostly?
Well, I would say, yeah. But you have to understand, in our jail system, about 2,000 people out of the 10,000 average are illegals. That's a pretty high percentage. So naturally, when they're convicted, you're going to get a high percentage of the convicted people that are here illegally. But they're not in there for being illegal. They're in there for all different types of crimes.
Right. You've boasted that dogs are fed better than inmates in your jails. Could you explain why?
Well, first of all, let me clarify that. About 6 years ago, a lot of animal cruelty, killing cats. I decided to do something. I formed a special unit just to go after those that abuse animals.
Okay, I'm actually more interested in the treatment of the inmates, though. Why?
That's where I'm going.
Okay.
I have to lay a foundation here.
All right.
At the same time, the inmates were destroying the plumbing in the jail. I decided to kick the inmates out, put them in Tent City, so I had an empty building with cells to put those that abuse animals in jail, plus to put the dogs in jail to take care of them. So we have dogs behind bars in our jail that have been abused, that are victims. So when I said it costs more to feed the dogs in the jails than the inmates, it's true. It's about $1 a day to feed the dogs. At that time, it was the only air-conditioned jail that we had. And it costs about, it's gone up a little. I'm very angry. Our meals have gone up to probably 60 cents a day. So it does cost more to feed the dogs. It's about $1 a day to feed the dogs. It's about 60 cents a day to feed the inmates. And they still get their 2,500 calories. Just today, I gave them a birthday gift. It's my birthday. And I fed them liver and onions, 5,000 pounds of liver. See, we get donated food. I keep the cost down because of donated food.
You've also talked about how you don't think that the inmates deserve treatment that is better than dogs.
Well, I don't know if I said it that way. I said the dogs are victims. They have been abused. The criminals are criminals. They have violated the law. So if a dog and cat, I have a cat section and a horse section, if they have been abused by humans, I lock up the people that abuse the animals and throw them in jail. The dogs, horses, and cats, I treat nice because they are victims.
Could you talk a little bit about what happened to Juan Mendoza Farias in one of your jails?
Who is he?
He was the inmate who was, there was an extensive Maricopa County Sheriff's Office detectives investigation that was reported on by I think it was the New Times, and they found, looking at almost 5,000 pages of
You know, first of
documentation.
all,
This was John Dickerson. They found that he had
I'm gonna
died as a result. No, just let me finish the question. He had died as a result of consecutive beatings by jail guards. There were other inmates and some of the guards who were on duty talked about how he was tasered some guards on duty talked about tasering him over a dozen times. He was
You
repeatedly tasered.
you know,
He
before
never
you,
showed signs of
you know,
violent
before you
behavior.
waste your breath, number one, you said you were going to talk about illegal immigration. What does this have to do with illegal immigration?
Well, we were
And
here.
I'm going to get the facts here because we'll close this interview right now. You can go back home. I don't talk about what that New Times Village Voice talks about because they have no credibility. Now, if you want to talk about illegal immigration, let's get to it. I don't know what case you're talking about. So you said you're going to interview me for illegal immigration. What does that have to do with this case you're talking about that you read in the New Times?
Well, you were talking about your law enforcement
And you cut me
background.
off. You said, I want to talk about illegal immigration.
Well,
Let's
okay,
talk
let's
about
go back to
illegal
illegal
immigration.
All right.
Because you know what?
You
I
mentioned
don't,
the Department
just
of
a minute.
Justice.
I don't have to talk to you. I can stop this right now. Right now. You came here to talk about illegal immigration, not the New Times, not some tasers. So you want to stick to illegal immigration, stick to it, or we're cutting this off.
Okay, back to illegal immigration. Absolutely. You'd raised the issue of the Department of Justice investigation that is ongoing, charging you with possibly racial profiling.
I had never been charged with anything.
They're investigating
No,
you
they
for it.
had,
They
well,
are saying,
yes, they are
not
saying.
legally charging,
A
but-
civil violation they're talking about.
Yes. So this is, I know that your department does not collect data on racial groups that you are arresting, but the East Valley Tribune, as you know, won a Pulitzer Prize
Yeah, well,
for
great.
an
great,
investigation.
yeah,
What
right.
they found, I'm sure you're very familiar with these statistics.
Hey,
Out
Lisa.
of 295
Hold on. Lisa? What is it? Where's Lisa? These people.
Okay, 1 second. Hey, let me let you get going. I gotta talk to the sheriff. Bye-bye, bye-bye. All right.
What a hit. Wait a minute.
They do a hit piece on yours?
It's all the new. It wasn't what they said they were. I'm gonna kick them out.
Okay.
It's a New York.
Manhattan thing?
Where's Lisa?
I don't know. This is Doug. Hey, not too bad. Okay. Okay, sounds good. Probably runs at any time after 1 o'clock. It should be done, so probably 2:30. All right, thank you. Bye.
Can't reach her.
9.
Come on in this office.
Okay.
He doesn't answer. I'm trying to reach Lisa and see what you told her about this interview, and we'll get our story straight. So the interview has stopped right now.
Okay.
You can go
What
back
if
home.
If you wanted to talk about illegal immigration, why don't you say what you wanted to say?
No, you have come here to talk about the New Times, which is a garbage I don't even talk about, in this Tribune 5-part series. I'm not rehashing that anymore. That's been rehashed on and on. So if you want to come here, you talk from your original, and don't go talking about other news media that you read in the New Times or the Tribune. I don't talk about other news media.
Okay, I will leave them out of it.
Well, you already went that route.
Okay, well, why don't
You
we
went
go
into
back
the
to
New Times.
original?
I don't talk about. If you quote anybody, I want your original. I want you to originally ask me your questions and not what you read in that New Times or the Tribune that won a prize. Okay? Can we get some guidelines here?
All right, yeah.
But that's not what was here. You were not here. You're giving me the typical interview because, and I've been through this a million times. I heard in the New Times. The New Times. And I get a little sensitive because there's a lot of sensitivity with certain elected officials, according to the New Times. That's why the Justice Department is investigating. They admit themselves, according to the New Times, he did that. Can you believe being investigated by what they read in the newspaper? Think of that.
What about the Goldwater Institute? Are they
That's
more-
another one. No, I'm not even going to talk about them because there's politics involved in that too. So what I'm going to talk about is what you ask me on your own initiative that you may have questions for the sheriff and not what the New Times and Tribune said. I don't talk about what they said. You can ask me.
Okay.
Well,
Let's
what
talk
you
about-
want,
let's
isn't
talk
that
about
fair?
immigration
That makes
policy.
you a good journalist.
Let's talk
I'm
about
trying to help you.
Let's talk about immigration policy.
Is
then.
Lisa back there?
Not yet, Paul's here.
As we know, Department of Justice guidelines
Right.
for conducting immigration sweeps specify that there needs to be evidence. Since 2007, they've specified that. Since 2007, the ICE has actually specified that there needs to be more than a traffic citation to make an arrest on immigration grounds.
That's wrong. That's
That's what the ICE website said.
No,
They had a
no,
fact sheet
no.
That said
No,
that,
no,
that
no.
said that if
No.
if officers who are deputized to carry out immigration policy, immigration enforcement,
Mhm.
are to conduct sweeps and make arrests, it has to be based on evidence.
That's not
So
right.
reports or actual documented reports or 911 calls or records of arrest. And
Oh.
I'm just wondering, because I know that you've said that for a lot of the arrests that you've carried out of undocumented immigrants, you've received tips from local business owners. There was a lot of activity, I know, at Pruitt's Furniture Shop.
Employer sanction.
Okay, and also a lot of neighborhoods where it's predominantly Latinos who live. These are areas that have had high volumes of arrests under the provisions of the 287G.
Right. Is that, who said that? I don't understand where you're getting the policy, because let me say this. Regardless of what you read on the web, we've been audited many times by the ICE. On the 287G, we've come out with flying colors. So evidently, we're doing something right.
I know that ICE has not released their report that they did the audit. I don't think that is public. I'd love to look at it. Do you have a copy?
I don't
Because
have
I
it.
would love to do some journalism.
You mean, yeah, you mean recently?
Yeah, I think that they completed their audit, right?
No,
Oh,
I
okay,
have
so
no idea.
ongoing. So I haven't seen what they've come up
Exactly.
with. But there is an expectation that if you are going to carry out this 287G policy and you have the deputies who are enforcing immigration law, you need to have evidence that there are crimes being carried out in the areas that you're targeting, and that the arrests are as a result of crimes. And I'm just wondering, what is the basis that you are making these arrests?
Well, we made over 1,600 on human smuggling cases.
And what
A
were
state
most
law.
What were most people convicted of?
The class 4 felony of human smuggling, including the co-conspirators that happen to be in the car that have been smuggled in. That's been the controversy.
But that's the majority of them are people who've been arrested for paying to be smuggled.
Yeah.
So they're very low
Co-conspirator.
profile, right? Which stands in contrast to some of the other 287G enforcement that has gone on in the country, where local law enforcement has participated in ICE enforcement, in ICE investigations, rather than spearheading these raids themselves.
I don't know if you call low profile when it's a class 4 felony, a very serious crime. In fact, you can't even get out on bond. So if you want to call these co-conspirators low profile, okay. But we've had 90% conviction rate. Now that's the human smuggling state law. To get back to your point about the 287G about traffic violations, we are deputy sheriffs. We have the authority to enforce the traffic laws, whether it's a cracked windshield or not. We do it every day to everybody. If pursuing to our stop, we have also the training to determine whether they are illegal. As far as going into Hispanic neighborhoods, that's not true either. We go into all the neighborhoods to enforce the crime, the laws, plus the illegal immigration, pursuing to those crimes. So we're everywhere. We don't call them sweeps like you did. We call them crime suppression operations, just like you blitz an area for DUIs or other crimes. So I want to get that terminology straight.
Okay, so what's the latest crime suppression operation that you did?
The latest?
Yeah.
Well, you mean it's coming or that we've already done?
That you've already done. What's the latest?
Well, I think we did one in Avondale about a month ago. We arrested 40 people. One incident, you had 5 people go into a house to take 2 victims out. They had bulletproof vests, police uniforms. The 5 people were armed that went in there. That was part of our so-called crime suppression operation. Out of the 40, we determined that 20 were illegals out of those arrests. That was our last one.
Right. How do you explain figures like, if you look at the activities? Actually, could you tell me a little bit more first about the activities of the human smuggling unit, because that's a part of your department that has received a lot more resources in recent years.
Well, we've had, I decided before the legislation was passed on the human smuggling, we started to form a unit, 5 detectives. In the event it passed, it did pass about 3 years ago. So we have about 15 officers, deputies, dedicated to enforce that law. We did such a great job that the state legislature last year gave us $1.6 million. The former governor took it away, and I just got it back again in the last 2 months, the $1.6 million. And that's a special unit to enforce the human smuggling laws.
Right. I think one of the issues that the Department of Justice is looking into is the fact that the majority of the people who are being arrested by the human smuggling unit and most of the arrests on traffic violations are Latino. So we see a discrepancy of something like 695 Latinos arrested under this for non-Latinos. How do you explain that if there is?
We arrest everybody. How do you know it's all Latinos?
Well,
we don't just arrest Latinos.
Well, those are the only statistics that exist, as far as I know.
They don't even exist. We don't keep
about the activities about the arrests of the human smuggling unit, breaking it down in terms of race, and that was done by a newspaper, but it's now the statistic is now being looked at by the Department of Justice. So if you have different statistics that can you counter that?
No, we don't keep records. We don't keep records of the ethnic background of the people we arrest. It just so happened that when we arrest these people on the human smuggling, that they happen to be from Mexico. They could be from anywhere.
So on what
and
basis
the
are you
Department of
making the arrests?
Justice, by the way, has no statistics.
On what basis are you making the arrests, though?
On violations of the law. I've said again, pursuant to our other crimes. We don't go on the street. Oh, that is a crime.
But it seems pretty strange that it's almost all Latinos who are being.
Well, that's not my problem if the ones we stop and charge happen to be from Mexico. They have violated the state laws, and which is the human smuggling law. So is it my problem that the ones we stop happen to be from Mexico? Should we let them go because they're from Mexico?
Well,
It's a
when the
felony
numbers
law.
line up as 665 versus 4 non-Latinos,
Okay.
then I can see why people are concerned about racial profiling. Can
No.
you see that where that concern is
No,
coming from?
in fact of all, the Justice Department has no statistics on what you're talking about. They haven't even started their investigation, really. So I don't
They do
understand.
stipulate that if you are doing, you call them crime suppression operations, there has to be evidence, some sort of evidence that there is
No,
crime
I
going
don't
on.
see that.
You can't target
No.
neighborhoods.
Where are you finding that
They're-
out? That's not part of the. How do you know that's part of their
That's
investigation?
part of civil rights.
Well, that's
part
what
of
you're
civil rights
saying.
law.
No,
it's
that's what
part of
you're
the law.
saying. What law?
There's the Civil
Well,
Rights
well,
Act.
we're not violating
There is
the law.
Department of Justice guidelines that
Yeah,
stipulate
okay.
that you can't carry out crime suppression in neighborhoods based on race. And I'm just wondering what you're basing.
I'm not
these-
basing anything. I'm telling
these
you,
crime
we're not.
suppression operations
No,
on, if not race.
No, we're not violating the law. So why are we talking about it?
It
we're
just
not
so
violating the
happens-
law.
It just so happens that almost all of the people that this unit arrests on traffic violations
That's not true.
happens to be Latino.
That's not true. We invest
665
hundreds of
versus 4?
people we arrest.
Sheriff, she is confusing interdiction, human smuggling with crime suppression.
No, she's not.
Yes,
No.
she is. She's talking about 660 people being arrested. That's the statistic that came out of the Tribune.
Well, we're not talking
And
about
that
the
is
Tribune.
That is about
That's-
human smuggling operations where we're arresting. She's trying to confuse that number with crime suppression. Those two numbers cannot be mixed. She's trying to
I was
use
talking
that
about the
figure.
sweeps, and he told me that was actually
Suppression,
crime suppression. So
yeah.
he's the one who introduced the concept of crime suppression. So if
Crime
that's not the right,
suppression- Crime suppression is in a geographic area of Maricopa County, and we live in Maricopa County. Our border is about 100 miles to the south here. You're going to have a heavy Hispanic content here in this community. I'm a Hispanic officer myself. So to try to say that we're targeting specific geographic locations within Maricopa County,
I already discussed that.
that is,
We go everywhere.
it does not exist. We live in Maricopa County, Arizona. The border's 100 miles from here. There is no place.
I
without-
can't
a lot
get-
of your critics do say that these
Of course they do.
that the raids are
Yeah.
carried out largely in
That's what the
Hispanic
critics say.
communities.
That's what the critics say.
And so
Let
you're
them
saying
talk.
so where do you
You know,
find
let me
similar-
tell you,
similar
this
operations
is a
in
sensitive
non-Latino
thing
neighborhoods?
because I shouldn't even be talking about the investigation from the Department of Justice. You don't talk about it, and I just talk too much about it. So I'm not going to talk anymore about an investigation which you seem to have put words in their mouth, because that's not what, when they wrote me a letter, said. They came down here because the 4 congressmen from out of state asked the Justice Department and Janet Napolitano to look into my operations and see if there's any violations of the civil rights. Okay? And there was a few people here locally that were talking to the Congress people. Now, these Congress people are not from Arizona. Then the Justice Department decided, and they did it very quickly for a new administration. And I worked with the Justice Department for almost 30 years. Nothing is ever done so quick as they did to write me that letter. I am not concerned about the Justice Department coming down here. I am concerned with some of their own violations, and that's why we're asking the Justice Department to investigate themselves. That's another issue, but it all has to do with that letter. And I'm going to say it again. There's nothing in that letter that has come forward that you're talking about other than some critics, other than what you read in the New York Times editorial board or for some other newspapers. So I can answer some questions about the mechanics to the best of my knowledge, but I'm not going to talk about a civil rights so-called investigation by the Justice
Just so
Department.
that we can put to rest what you're saying that the East Valley Tribune report is not something we should look at as credible evidence.
I didn't say that, but
Oh,
I'm not going to talk about what you read in another newspaper, and I'm not going to do that.
Could you? Yeah, I'm just wondering if you could.
Even though they won
clarify.
the prize, like you said they did.
I'm just wondering if you could clarify though. They say that their report was based on Freedom of Information requests.
And they
to your
came here.
office.
They came
And
here.
so did they? Yeah. So it's based on the statistics that you gave to them, and then they broke it down, looking at who the arrests were. They broke it down in terms of who was Latino, who wasn't. I'm just wondering, are you saying that they misrepresented your
I'm saying
findings? 'Cause
again,
the source is actually your department, right?
once you're
That's where
going
they-
back to the New Times, on the New Times and the Tribune, I'm not going to talk about how they did their investigations, how they got their statistics, if they twisted statistics. I'm not going to talk about it.
Okay.
You ask me what you want to ask me. You keep going back to the New Times, and the Tribune, and the Goldwater Institute. You keep going back to those three things. Let's talk. I'm answering your questions, and you're talking again about the Justice Department, which everybody, if I had lawyers in here, they say, shut your mouth, Sheriff, you don't talk about it, or you should not. They can't tell me what to do. So I am trying to answer some questions within the framework to help you out and give you a little idea how we're operating this illegal immigration. I'm willing to do that, and I do it hundreds and hundreds of times. I never have any problems with the reporters.
Okay.
So I'm not trying to criticize you. I'm just trying to give you some,
Okay.
I try to give you some guidelines, at least give me the parameter, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Tell me about how, I know that day laborers have been a big issue
Right.
here in Maricopa
Yes.
County.
Right.
Could you tell me a little bit about how you have approached day laborers?
First of all, we do not go on the street corner and arrest people because they look like they're from another country. And since we're so close to the border, we'll have to say Mexico or Central America. Now, if there's a crime committed, some type of crime, then we will pursue it because we have 160 officers trained by the United States government, ICE, to perform those duties. And we also have the state laws. For example, the employer sanction where we go into businesses and to see if we can connect the employer knowingly hiring the illegals. It's a civil law. We haven't been too successful. However, we did go into 18 different businesses. And even though we can't tie up the employer, out of almost 300 arrests, 190 of those people arrested were phony identification theft. So that's a felony too. So we enforce that law. And they're all illegals too, by the way.
So, sorry, how many people were arrested?
In the employer sanction,
Yeah.
that's a different operation.
Yeah, okay.
A different state law, which is a civil law
Yeah.
about the employers knowingly hiring the
Yeah.
employee. It's kind of weak. We're trying to get that law a little tougher.
Right.
But while we're enforcing that law, if we can't get the employer involved, we do arrest the employees, and probably the majority have violated a state law for phony Social Security and so on.
How do you find the evidence that there is this illegal transaction going on in the first place?
Well, we do research through Social Security and other agencies to determine who has a Social Security card. So we do a little background. We don't just knock the door in and grab people. We have already done preliminary work to prove our case. Now that's another part of the illegal immigration laws that we're enforcing.
You want to?
Well, yeah, we're talking a lot about the law, and I guess the part of this that still kind of confounds me, to be truthful, is that you're the illegals you're charging with co-conspiracy or conspiracy. I can't remember what it is, for human smuggling, and they're getting thrown in with people who have committed crimes, usually not real violent crimes. They're only in there for a year maximum, but still they're criminals. They've thieving, and
Mhm.
battery, whatever. So there's this way that, in some sense, you're lumping in people who are crossing the border to get work and be with their families with people that are committing crimes. And to me, I mean, I know plenty, I've met plenty of illegal immigrants, and most of the ones that I know are really hardworking, law-abiding
Mhm.
people. They're not, I mean, they're good-hearted, hardworking, honest people, and they're getting lumped in with these people who are criminals, real criminals actually, who pose a threat to, who really actually pose a threat to society. And so I wonder why it is you think those people should be lumped together. Like they don't seem to be. They seem like apples and oranges to me. And why do they seem the same to you? I don't understand.
Well,
like,
let me.
you and I seem so far apart on that. I don't understand.
Well, let me clarify that. I don't know if you know that the minute you cross this border, you have committed a criminal offense. Do you know that? Well, you don't. Do you know it's on the books? It's a law against that. So they are criminals. The minute they cross that border, or they're.
It's a misdemeanor.
It doesn't matter. We arrest misdemeanors every day. Is DUI a misdemeanor? I can go on and on. 51% of our people in jail. Out of 10,000. No, I know, but I gotta. She said just misdemeanor. 51% of people in jail are misdemeanors. Did you know that? Has nothing to do with illegal immigration. Evidently, the police are enforcing misdemeanor laws too. Why isn't the federal government enforcing misdemeanor laws? That's a good question, isn't it? I took an oath of office to enforce all the laws. If those laws are not on the books, I won't enforce it.
But the federal government is enforcing immigration law, right?
Isabel, could he answer the question that I asked?
I just asked. I just answered it. Now, if you want a personal viewpoint, mixing gardeners along with DUIs or child support, what am I supposed to do? Have a special place for the gardeners? They have violated the law. As far as the human smuggling, they have violated a Class 4 felony. They can get 5 years in jail. Now, I know what you're talking about. You are saying that a lot of the people, say, for example, you stop a car, you got the smuggler, then you got 10 people that are being smuggled in that are coming here for a job. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, they seem like a victimless crime to me.
Well, yeah, but we have a lot of victims. It's smoking marijuana, people say. Well, you know, we have drug users in jail, too. A lot of them on misdemeanors. So I understand your viewpoint on it. I understand it. I spent 4 years in Mexico City. Got along great with the Attorney General and the President. In Turkey. So I've been in all these foreign countries. But you won't say one thing. I was a hero of the Hispanic community here when I arrested a military reservist for pulling a gun on 9 people on a highway. You know why he did that? Because they looked like they were from Mexico and they looked like they were here illegally, and they were. But you don't put guns on people because what they look like. I was the hero. But now when I start enforcing the new laws, I'm the bad guy. So that's what I'm doing. I'm enforcing the laws. I can't let my personal feelings interfere with this sheriff enforcing the laws. But I understand what his question was. A lot of people have that same question.
For stopping a violent crime, I think that's heroic. But I don't know that. But you know, treating someone like a real criminal, like really.
What do you mean, like a real criminal? He is a criminal. What's his like a real? Is a guy with a marijuana cigarette a real criminal? Huh? To you, I'm sure he's not. But he's in jail. I don't see anybody complaining about drug users being in jail or driving drunk or speeding over 20 miles an hour and arresting, or all these other crimes that you will say, it's not serious, but they're in jail. But why are we talking about illegal immigration and selecting those that you feel are not criminals, even though they are? But that's what the law is. So let's change the laws. It's a very complex problem. It's something that Washington refuses to take on. The last election, both candidates took it off the table. Isn't that interesting? The illegal immigration was the biggest problem until about a year when the presidential general election took place. It disappeared. We all know the reason why. It has to do with politics. They want amnesty. They don't want to lose the Hispanic vote. That's what it's all about. Employers want to be able to hire cheap labor. We have a very serious problem in this country, financial problem. People are being laid off every day.
How much does it cost to keep somebody locked up who's in the country illegally for a year?
Same as everybody else.
How much?
Well, if you go to the tents, it's pretty cheap. The tents are, you were there.
About how much? How much does it cost?
Well, I don't know. It's about,
You don't know?
no, I don't know, because you have to separate. We have tents and we have the other jails, okay? I know when you throw in the cement, they put it all together. The employees, on and on and on. It's probably 25,000
$25,000
a year. Yeah,
per
what's
person? Per
yeah,
person?
what's that big problem when you have 20% of the people in jail have committed murders and everything else that are illegal? If those illegals never crossed the border, we would not have 100 people in jail today for killing people, including cops, if they weren't here. So that's why we have to stop this illegal immigration problem.
How many illegal immigrants have you convicted of murder in the last year?
I don't convict anybody. I just run the hotel.
How many murderers have been
Well, I would.
illegal have you found?
I don't. Not that I found. I'm talking. I don't make all the arrests in this county. I run the jails, and everybody, the police departments, put them in our jail. But my gut feeling would be at least 99%. I don't see many murderers going free.
No, I mean, what I'm saying is how many of the illegal immigrants that you catch turn out to be murderers?
I just said we have 100 today illegals in the jail for murder. I just gave you the figure, 100.
Okay, and how many illegal immigrants do you have in the jails again?
We have about 20%.
And your general prison population is?
Almost 10,000. That's 20%, that's 2,000. Illegals for other crimes, the majority are other crimes.
So you have 100 illegal immigrants who committed murder.
They haven't been convicted yet. Let's get this legal.
Okay, so they're not even
charged
convicted,
with murder.
charged with
I'm
murder.
sure they're going to be convicted. Okay.
Okay. So it's a pretty small percentage of the whole jail population.
100 murderers? Illegals? That's pretty high when you look at all the murderers in there. Everybody in jail isn't there for murder. They're there for every crime.
Okay. I'd be interested in getting the statistics on how many people are being charged for murder who are.
I just gave it to you. I'm not going to go.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to stay around for about a month, we can go through. We got 350 people come through our jail every day.
Right. I guess I'm more familiar just with the statistics for the human.
Human smuggling?
Yeah. Who mostly would be responsible for catching illegal immigrants who turn out to be violent criminals? Which part of your force? Would it be the human smuggling unit?
We are not responsible. You mean catching murderers and so on, violent criminals? Is that what
you were
you're saying?
just talking about how illegal immigration was tied to.
Yeah, but I'm not responsible for all the arrests. I'm trying to tell you that you have to go to every police department and ask them. I just run the jail. I accept them. Anybody arrested for any charge, whether it's a drinking, I don't care what it is, we investigate them when they're booked into our jail. We have investigated over 200,000 people, and 25,000 we have proved are illegal. So even though the cops won't ask, where are you from, the minute they book them into our jail for any type of crime, we ask, because we have the ICE computers, we have our officers trained for 5 weeks of intensive training. So I think that's one reason violent crime and other crimes have gone down, as they say, if you want to read all the statistics. I'm not a big statistic guy. And they keep saying crime has gone down in all these cities. I would like to think maybe one reason is because when you take 25,000 people and they don't get out, they can't get out back on the street, some of those will reoffend. You do know that. There are people that are in prisons and jails that commit crimes when they're released or they're out on bond.
Most reports I've seen have shown that violent crime has actually gone uninvestigated. There have been fewer arrests for violent crime in this county since the 287G agreement started being implemented by your department.
That's false. We have 15 detectives, just like we have 15 narcotic detectives. Their own mission is the human smuggling. We have narcotic detectives, larceny, arson. We do our job across the board.
But is it true that there are people who've been pulled off of the regular patrols?
That's not true.
So you have the same number of regular patrols?
Yes.
What's happened to response times?
They're great.
What are the rates right now?
We reduced it. I don't have the figures, but we try to stay around 5-6 minutes.
Okay. Because I think in
And it's always
2007,
been, it's really,
the
yeah,
average had risen to 11%,
yeah,
sometimes up to 15.
it's,
11 minutes,
yeah,
sometimes 15
yeah,
minutes.
yeah.
So where is it now?
Well, I don't have the figures in my head, but I'm saying it's been reduced,
Since
and we're happy with it in the last
Since
2-3
it went up.
years.
Since
No,
it
in the
went up
last
in
2-3.
2007.
No, in the last 2 years, it's how you look at the statistics. When you have a deputy patrolling 200 square miles, I think it takes a little more time to respond versus a local police is right around a block with 100 police cars. So you have to look at our operations a little different than a local police department. We're out there in the rural areas.
So why
but
would the
I'm-
response times have risen between 2004 and 2007, which is what the statistics did indicate?
No, that's what you're reading out of a newspaper again, and I'm not
Those were
going
your
to.
they came from your
No,
department.
it's how you look at it. It's how you look at response
So
time.
you're saying that people who say that the average response time was up to 11 minutes in 2007 were lying? Is that what
It's
you're
how
saying?
you look at the response time, whether you start off when the dispatcher receives the call or whether the deputy receives the call and responds. There are different ways on statistics to twist statistics around, and I'm not going to keep talking about it. You asked a question that you read in the Tribune, in the New Times, and I'm giving you my answer.
All right. There were 9 to 10 activists who were arrested at a board supervisors meeting. It was back in
Not
December.
at one time.
Okay.
Different times.
And I was just wondering, why go after these activists? I think there were some who were arrested for applauding. Some of them have been exonerated.
We don't
Just
go after.
wondering about what
Yeah.
the rationale was.
We don't go after anybody. Anybody, I don't care where they're from, that's going to disrupt a public meeting in their civil unrest, or they violate a law, they're going to be arrested.
What law were they violating?
I'm telling you, disrupting meetings,
What law is it?
there is a law against
Okay.
that.
What,
When you're in a public meeting and you disrupt that meeting, disorderly conduct and everything else, they were arrested.
Is there a problem in here?
Yeah, I got a big problem here.
What's the matter?
These people have come down here to talk about the New Times and the Tribune into guys being beat up in the jail. And I thought this was
There was also Amnesty International. Human
I
Rights
thought this
Watch.
was a
There's also the Department of
interview on
Justice.
illegal immigration.
Then let's stop the interview.
Well, I did stop it trying to reach you to get what your deal was about.
Well, we didn't really go in for it very long. Remember, they sent me a message, and I said, oh, I don't know if we need to do this.
I don't mind talking to them, which I think I've been pretty favorable, even though they're asking questions about the so-called Justice Department investigation. But they keep quoting the New Times, the typical thing. And I just told her, she seems like a nice person, it just asked me questions from not what you read in another newspaper, because I don't talk about other newspapers. Whether it's good or bad, I don't give them any credit, either negative or positive.
But you went to the trouble of arresting 2 executives from Village Voice Media.
They weren't involved in illegal immigration.
But they were arrested. So
But
I
you-
mean,
but
you paid enough attention to what the
They
what
weren't
the New
arrested
Times
for,
was
you know,
publishing, that it
this is
it
on and
resulted
on.
in
Who
an
are
arrest,
these people?
right?
Sheriff, I've got to tell you that that's still something that is in.
I know, litigation. She keeps talking about all
Well,
this.
I would say then that,
You know
let's
what,
just
I'm
finish
going to
up
tell
with
you
you.
what,
Let's
I've
just
already
finish up
told
with you.
her that. She's asking questions about, like you said, the Justice Department, litigation. She doesn't want to get up. Why did you arrest people in this board? So this is all, and I'm a very open guy. Didn't I start off in saying all the interviews I have? You can't say that this guy doesn't talk to the media, can you? Would you like a list of the thousands I talked to?
Well, what is the purpose of your visit here today?
We know what it is. It's the
Are you
New
representing the
Times.
Village Voice? Is that who you really represent?
No, I was just trying to find out more about Sheriff Joe Arpaio and his policies, and this information is out there in the public domain, and I don't think that it makes sense.
I give you a general.
It makes sense. It
Yeah.
makes sense to be if you are going to do interviews. I think you need to be open to the facts that are widely available in the public domain.
Really, why?
Well,
Why do I have
and
to
I think
do
we
that?
always
I
have
guess you
been.
don't.
Why?
We always have been.
Yeah.
But, where there's cases in litigation, like the situation with the New Times that you're requesting about, it's not in our best interest. I'm sure our legal counsel would tell you it's not in our best interest to respond to those
Probably
things
talk
right
too
now
much, do you, anyway?
while we're
That's
in
me.
litigation with them. So what else do you not are you asking about that we shouldn't be talking about?
Well, I told him the parameter.
Well, are you done? Are we
No, she
finished?
got angry because I started talking about the dogs in jail. She asked me why it costs more to feed the dogs. But then she said, this is an illegal immigration story. Oh, okay. I don't know why allegedly we beat up people in the jail or the New Times or statistics, response time, all this stuff. I don't know what this has to do with it. We locked up 2 people from the New Times?
Well, we
That's
have
all
a
that
2
got to
o'clock
do with
interview,
it.
so if you want to wrap up with the last couple of questions, then we'll be happy to do that, and then we've got to do an interview with another reporter, so are there other things you need to talk about?
Yeah, I guess the future of the 287G.
Okay, let's get to that.
Yeah,
Can we
the
talk
future
about
of
the things and
287, the
right.
future of the 287G. It
Right.
seems that a lot of people are really raising
Right.
questions about
Yes.
whether this
Mhm.
is a practical approach to
Yeah.
law enforcement, and
Yeah.
raising real concerns, certainly in the civil
I
rights
understand that.
community, about issues of racial profiling.
Right.
And your sheriff's office is held up as
Mhm.
a case study of why
Yeah.
it's a terrible idea. So how do you feel about that, especially as the Department of Justice is now investigating you?
Well, I don't know about a terrible idea because I have an approval rating of 80% of the people that I serve in this county, 4 million people. So when you say everybody has a concern, who are they? A few groups,
I guess the Department of
activist groups?
Justice.
What is their concern? What is their concern? They're just listening to a small group of people, and they sent us a letter that they want to look into our civil rights, which is a civil violation, not a criminal. And okay, let them do it. I'm not worried about it. So I'm not concerned about it.
Are you pretty confident that you're not violating the guidelines for protecting civil rights? Are you confident that your department doesn't do that?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident. I
Are
think
you
that
100% confident?
I'm not 100% confident on anything. Are you? You really think I'm 100% on anything? Whether I'm going to be alive tomorrow, I'm not 100% sure.
Well, I guess that what the Department of Justice guidelines say is that you need to have evidence of criminal activity before making arrests.
I'm not going to get into their guidelines. This will all come out as time goes on. I'm very confident on how we operate. We have legal opinions from the county attorney. Judges have ruled in our favor for enforcing these type violations. We've won every case that went to the federal court so far on how we operate the illegal immigration program. So I'm confident. And as I'm going to tell you, ICE once again, every time they audit us, we come out 100%. And being a federal guy myself, I think if we were violating any federal guidelines, it would be corrected, believe me. So when you got the 287G people saying you're doing great, and we work with them all the time, and we even got sworn in by them, so we're really one of them. So evidently they're happy with what we're doing. So I have no concern. I understand there's critics out there. Let's forget the newspapers. Other critics out there. I understand that. But that's going to happen. This is a volatile situation, the illegal immigration. I can understand I'm the poster boy. As you said, we have more officers trained than anybody else in the United States, 160. I'm very active in this type of program. And when you're active and you enforce the laws, and there's resentment from certain groups that Congress really isn't doing anything to solve the so-called comprehensive, I hate that word, comprehensive, I'm so tired of hearing the word, secure the borders, boots on the ground, transparency. You see, I don't have a computer, so I can't find out what all these words mean. I have my old typewriter here. So you have all these cliches, all political cliches. Secure, secure the border. I don't know what that means. I mean, I spent 14 years at the border on both sides. I'm one elected guy that knows where Mexico is. At least you asked me a few questions. You were nice enough to ask my opinion. I appreciate that. But nobody else asked my opinion. Isn't that interesting? Where's all the politicians knocking on my door? Forget the 17 years as sheriff, but what about all my experience with the United States Justice Department at the Mexican-U.S. border? Why isn't anybody asking me? All they do is get the heat, people marching around, call me everything in the book. I'm just trying to do my job, enforce the laws, and maybe, just maybe, I have stimulated some interest in the United States that maybe something good will come out of this controversy, some negative remarks against me. Maybe somebody will do something about it and get this problem resolved.
Everybody's talking now about the killing at the Holocaust Museum, and I'm not going to lump in. I think a lot of
this
people-
mayor?
Yeah, in the wake of Bill Gordon's comments,
Oh,
there's.
well, at least you
putting
read
that
it,
aside,
too.
I think that we know that there are problems of hateful groups and racism.
Boy, they sure are. They're sure coming after me from every direction.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about that for years.
And I'm just wondering, how do you see a danger in the approach that you are taking to immigrants and forcing, and I guess, yeah.
Is it Stoke anti-immigrant?
Yeah.
And I mean,
anti-Hispanic.
and it's not just the Holocaust Museum. I mean, we could think of Robert Cotton, who was murdered last May
abortion.
1st, 2008.
Oh, that's...
He was by the Aryan Brotherhood in one of your jails, and for 20 minutes there was footage
one
of
inmate
him being,
against... Yeah, okay.
him being beaten by the Aryan Brotherhood, a gang that I suppose there are members of in.
Yeah, there's some racial tension in the jails, the blacks against the Hispanics, but we control that situation. We do pretty good.
He was murdered, right?
Yeah, by another inmate, right?
There's racial animosity in the country, and I think the question is whether or not that sort of rhetoric and policies that are enacted here kind of inflame some of that.
I don't know. I do know on the other side of the fence that for the last 3 years, small groups like Acorn and others have been marching up and down the streets with banners and the piñata, cutting my head off and showing it to the kids. That's on that side against me. And I've been going through this for 3 years, personally. But I understand this is part of the job. And I'm not going to stop. I will not be deterred.
This is part of what I was saying about, and I know you took exception to me saying, treating them like real criminals because,
Yeah,
you're right.
well, I think,
I get it.
technical point.
Right, they're criminals, but the people's attitudes can then be like, oh, they're less than people, or they're, you know, they deserve to be punished, they deserve to be, you know, mistreated, you know. And I think that's sort of some of the hate groups that are out there, like, you know. I'm wondering if you're thinking that the detention of illegals, that policy inflames that sort of feeling, you know, that they can be treated like less than people.
Well, I don't think so. We have.
This is an illegal immigration story per her email. Okay? So you know, that's her email. They were there here to do an immigration story. And
Public access.
nothing else was discussed, right? In our email. That's what you told me.
Well, I know that, but we sure went to other things.
So,
But anyway, we're back on the illegal immigration.
Yeah.
You can edit all that other
Right,
stuff
right.
out.
Do you think that stokes, I mean, do you think these policies that you're enacting sort of inflame that kind of
I think a small group of people are making a big issue of it. And the bottom line is they just don't like me enforcing the illegal immigration laws. It has to do with politics, the vote, as I mentioned, employers hiring people cheap. When you can't find anything else, they usually throw in the racist. That's become a little more of conversation in the past couple of years. But I'm not concerned. I'm not a racist. I'm not going to get into my personal background of my grandkids of all different ethnic backgrounds. But this is what they do. And they call me a racist, and they're calling me every name. Mussolini, you know, I'm Italian. Mother and father came here from Italy. And they call me every name in the book. And it makes me sad, especially when they have these demonstrations. And, you know, the piñata, where they, like, have you heard of piñata?
I know what a piñata is.
You know, they cut my head off and show it to all the kids. And here I'm the chief law enforcement officer in uniform. That's sad. The new Supreme Court justice I just read, they did something, cut her in a cartoon, never mind. And boy, they really defended her on that. But where is everybody defending me on all this racial stuff they're throwing at me? I've never had security in my 17 years. Now I have a security because of threats I'm getting, but it's not going to stop me.
But you're not vulnerable in the same way that, like, poor illegal immigrants are. You're not vulnerable nearly in the same way, right? These people are really vulnerable. And these people
I am too. They sure know how to pop the sheriff. There's been a lot of threats on me. But I'm going to tell you, you're from the East, I presume, New York? Mm-hmm. I'm from the East. Mm-hmm. I'm just kind of joking in a way, but East Coast sometimes think different than the West Coast. I don't surrender. I have a birthday tomorrow, and I'm a senior citizen. I'm a senior citizen. Been married 52 years, and have 2 kids, 4 grandkids. I'm not going to be deterred by these people that march down the street, call me every name in the book. I'm not going to be deterred. I will continue to fight the illegal immigration problem.
What about, how do you feel about the other side? I mean, there are white supremacists who claim you as a hero.
I don't know about that. I denounce any racist group, any. I have an open door policy, not just for you to go into the jail, but I have another strange philosophy, and I know it's a little risky. I can go down the street right now, and you'll see people come up to me, and they'll say, "Sheriff, can I have a picture with you?" Or I give speeches like 2 every day. I got to give another one tonight. I don't check everybody that comes in there. I don't know who's in the audience. And they all come up to me, "Can I have your picture?" I always do it because I don't like turning people down, if you understand. When I'm there, the people, I serve them and I report to the people. So I do take a risk sometimes getting a picture taken with somebody.
I'm not talking about the picture. I know there was a picture, it was posted on a blog.
Which is wrong, by the way. You know, the guy said, he didn't even know who I was. Of course, that's not on the blog.
So, essentially, I'm not asking about the picture. I'm just asking about the fact that there are there are white supremacist groups who do hold you up as a hero.
Well, I don't
And so
know
I'm just
about that.
wondering-
Who said that?
Well, like, you can, yeah, you
They
can.
did? Who? I never heard of them. Whoever they are, I haven't heard it. Well, you know what? There's a
There
lot
are
of.
neo-Nazis who have talked
Well,
about
I don't support them. I
Well,
don't
I'm
condone
I'm
that.
not saying you're condoning it, but I'm just asking because you're talking about concern about
Yeah.
hatred and groups
Right.
that are
Okay.
espousing that are talking about violence towards you, and I'm just wondering about whether you're concerned about these people who hold you up as a hero, who are white supremacists.
Well, I don't know. I'll tell you one thing. I have a lot of other people that think I'm a hero too. You know. A lot of them all over the United States of America, including New York. I can show you files of hundreds and hundreds of letters I get. Hundreds and hundreds every week. All support me and call me a hero. They're not part of these groups. But I don't agree with these groups. But what can I tell them? Can I say, no, I don't even know who they are. I denounce where they're coming from, but I can't stop them from marching up and down the streets with signs, just like I can't stop the open border people. They're all there, all crowd. Every day they're there, call me every name in the book with these big signs. How can I stop them? There's freedom. There's a First Amendment right. So if these supremacist groups are out there, I can't do nothing about it. What can I do about it? Arrest them if they're not violating the law? But if they violated the law, they'd be in jail too. Guarantee you.
It took quite a long time for there to be a response to the Robert Cotton beating. It was on videotape in the jail for 20 minutes before a guard came when Robert Cotton was being beaten by a member of the Aryan Brotherhood.
What's that got to do with illegal immigration?
No, it's to do
You're
with
into our
hate.
jail.
It's to do with hate.
Hate?
Yeah. I'm just wondering why the response time was slow.
Well, I'm not going to get into that. Nothing was done to my officers. There was nothing that we found that was wrong, I guess, for a couple of minor things. And unfortunately, when you run a jail system, there are a lot of people there that are not nice people. But we try to make everybody safe and secure. I don't care where they're from, who they are, whether they're murderers, anything else. We're not happy what happened.
Is there any follow-up that's going to be done? So you didn't actually find that there were any major errors?
No, there's a couple, but we took care of it. But when you have 1.6 million people, 1.6 million that have come through the jails since I've been the sheriff, we have a pretty good record, even though we don't want to lose anybody in the jail, to die in the jail.
But there have been a number of cases.
There's been a number of cases.
What is it, $43 million?
No, that's not true. It's like 30, and a major part of that is the correctional health.
So that's in how much the county has had to pay in settlements?
That's yeah.
For lawsuits
but
over
that's
people who have both health-related deaths.
Yeah, because the health-related part of that doesn't come under me. I get all the heat. That comes under the county. I have no control over the health problems in the jail, the doctors and nurses, but I get all the criticism.
But there have been several past cases of inmate-on-inmate violence that have resulted in death. And
No, when you look at those type of situations, and compare us across the nation, we're way at the bottom. But once again, we're talking about the jails, which I'm not afraid to talk about. I just answer your question, but I don't know what that has to do with illegal immigration.
Sheriff, that figure she's throwing out is broad stroke. It's not all jail operations.
it's just settlements.
That's the entire sheriff's office.
Well, you could talk about the car accidents.
Wrongful deaths and injuries?
It's not limited.
Not just in jails.
You're using a total dollar figure that is spread out across all of our operations, including traffic collisions. So the number that you're trying to attribute strictly to the jail is highly inaccurate.
The point is that you're asking me this question, which personifies what this is all about. It's about me. Because if you went to the New York City Police, if you just went to Phoenix, they just settled $6 million. If you went to Mesa, they just settled $3 million. Has to do with cops and the bad guys. And then you're talking about $40 million. That's not even the accurate. After 17 years. So why don't you go to every police chief? Why don't you go to every mayor and see what they paid out? Go to all the other sheriff's offices, see what they paid out. But because it's me, oh, $30 million, that is nothing in 17 years. I just told you last week $6 million in one case. But nobody talks about that because they're not Joe Arpaio. You understand where I'm going with this? I wish you would do a study. If you want to hit me, why don't you go and get the other balance? Why don't you go to other police departments and see what they pay out? But why is it always me throwing out this figure that you got from the New Times or for these activists, $41 million up and down the streets? It's all wrong. And that makes me frustrated. I hate to tell you, I get frustrated sometimes about the misinformation, only to take the sheriff down. And quite frankly, after 17 years, this is my 5th re-election, but I never had so much heat, if you want to call it that, and the common denominator is the illegal immigration. That's what's driving everything against me. All the criticism by certain groups, politicians, never had any problems. And I've done some controversial things for the first 15 years.
What do you mean illegal immigration is bringing all this heat?
It's a common denominator with the demonstrators, with the media, with the signs, with the threats, with politicians accusing me and my officers of racism, have them investigated. I can go on. And that just has happened in the last 2-3 years when I started enforcing the illegal immigration laws. However, my polls are higher now than they have been. So I presume that the people of Maricopa County and the United States of America like what this sheriff is doing to enforce the laws. And I know you're probably going to ask me this. If not, I'm going to give you the answer anyway. And I think you started to do this when you're. The fact is, you're probably going to say, Sheriff, you're only doing this to get reelected. I had an election last year, November, and this has been going on, and all the demonstrators and activists, he's only doing this for political reasons. I can get elected on pink underwear. I don't need the illegal immigration to get reelected. Believe me, I don't need that. I've done it 5 times.
So why do you take it on?
You know why? Let me tell you, I'm going to answer the question that you have. And the point is, I do have compassion for the Latin people. I say Latin because that's what the problem is here. You think I would not be happy arresting somebody being here illegal from another country, even Canada? It just so happens they're all from Mexico or Central America. But I have compassion for the Mexican people, having lived there. I know a lot of them come here to work. There's no secret. They don't all violate the laws and go to the jail, even though we have a high percentage. But I had to make a decision. Do I let my compassion override what I took an oath of office for? Do you think I go home every night and I have a notch on the wall? Oh, I arrested 20 more. I'm so happy. You think I do that? I don't do that.
You have press releases that say this many more illegal
Yes.
immigrants arrested
Yeah.
today.
And that's a good.
You send that out to the media on a regular basis.
You know why I do that? They don't print it, by the way. You do know that. If any other law enforcement agency, by the way, they get all the media. They do a drop house. They get it. I don't get it.
You mean the local
Police.
police?
Yeah, when they do a drop house, they get it. I do drop houses all the time. They don't report it, especially this Arizona Republic. And when you catch somebody for 30 felonies on any crime, you arrest 30 people on felonies, not misdemeanors. That's newsworthy anywhere. So we arrest 30 people because they happen to be illegal. We arrest 50 people for identity theft, which we're #1 in the nation. But because they're illegal, I get the bad news. They don't print it or they badmouth me because I arrested 30 illegals, but they forget this identity theft. So we know what's going on here. I know what's going on. So when we do make a felony arrest, we make others too, but I think it's newsworthy when you arrest 30 people for felonies. They don't print it. Now, you read it. I'm putting it on my web. I want the people to know we're enforcing the laws. The state government gave me $1.6 million to do that. And also, I want the people here illegally to understand. You come into this county, you're going to be arrested, and you're going to jail. So I use this as a deterrence effect and hope they don't come through Maricopa County. Let them come through another county. You don't come into this county. Also, the people that are here illegally, maybe they will make special arrangements and go back home and come back into this country legally. So this is a public perception thing I get out too. I'm not going to deny it. Why should I deny it?
So you talked about media outlets that have been critical of you. You must have journalists who you like working with and good rapport with. I mean, at least Lee Dobbs, who have sort of helped get out this message, right?
Well, I've been on, you talk about national, I thought you meant locally, but national.
Both.
Well, you're one of the few, I don't blame you. I know I got a little agitated when you quote other media. Now you're saying something nice about other media. But as I mentioned when we began this, I have an open door policy. And the only reason I interrupted you, I wanted to get Lisa and see what this story was really about, because I've been sandbagged before on the same thing with PBS, which they came here on one thing and they were all driving to help make this guy get an award from this other newspaper. But actually that story turned out pretty good. It was balanced. But I didn't get into that thing that I'm not getting into with you. The media is, and I have, I'm not going to tell you what his job is, but I have a son-in-law that's very high up in the media. My daughter was a great reporter.
Wasn't your son-in-law on the editorial board of the Arizona Republic?
He was?
Is
or was?
Oh, I don't know. Is or was. I don't know a lot about the local media.
Well, I don't usually talk about other newspapers. But if he is, there's a wall between he and I. We don't get involved in each other's business. But I just bring up my daughter, who was a great reporter, and then left to adopt kids. So I have a little history with the media. And I guess you can put it like this. It's a love-hate relationship. Even locally, I guess they love me one day and they hate me the next. But it's something you have to work with. That's most sheriffs, you don't know who they are. I started this by saying I have an open door policy. I don't run a CIA operation. You can go to the tents, you can go anywhere. I have nothing to hide. So I do deal with the media. And traditionally in law enforcement, they hate media. When I was head of the federal drug enforcement all over the United States and overseas, I always talked to the media, but I had to be careful what I said. If I said the wrong thing, this transferred me back to Turkey. Now as the elected sheriff, nobody's going to transfer me. I stand by what I say to you. But that's something I decided to do. When I became sheriff, I said, I'm going to be active. I'm not going to be secretive. I'm going to just do it. And that's what I do. Gets me in trouble sometimes. Gets me in trouble. Even on the dogs. When I said it costs more to feed the dogs than the inmates. Well, I guess if I was the governor, they'd drive me out of the state. But I don't get much heat on that. I don't get much heat. At least the dogs like me. In jail. I do have 200 dogs and cats right down in the jail. If you like to visit our MASH unit, you can visit the dogs and cats. I got DMX's dogs in there. We just convicted him, the rapper.
Without undocumented workers, how would the economy function?
It's functioning great.
If you
Isn't
look-
it great? Isn't it great? Now you go to McDonald's and the chicken places and you see high school kids working and all that. Because now the people that don't have jobs and the high school kids are trying to get money to go to college. Now they have a better opportunity because the illegal workers are leaving. And isn't it great that maybe some of these businesses should pay more money to U.S. citizens and give them a job and opportunity? If you have 12 million people in this country illegally here, taking up jobs that U.S. citizens need, especially today, I don't think it's fair. It's a fair, quite frankly, I'm going to get back to, I look at it as a fairness issue. Fairness. My mother and father came from Italy. There's many people around this world, you know it, are dying to get into the United States of America. But they can't. And yet you get people to come here illegally and they want to make them U.S. citizens. That's not fair. It's not fair.
What about for people who've been here for 25 years, who have families here, who don't have another home?
That's another issue. That's another issue.
A lot of people without the documents are in that situation.
Well, we don't come across that many. Most of our arrests is very, very few. Most of our arrests, they just came here illegally. They're working, they're trying to find a job, and that type of thing. But we haven't come across many that have been here for all that time. But when we do, we give it to the ICE. And then they make a decision what to do. That's not our decision.
But in some of the operations, your operations, there have been American citizens who are Latino who've been arrested. How do you? I mean,
Well,
I imagine that a lot of people who've been here for a long time. It doesn't seem like it's very discriminating.
We don't
when it
arrest
comes
U.S.
to-
You mean U.S. citizens we arrest?
Yeah,
If they're Latino?
There was a lawsuit by 5 people who I think it's ongoing. So I imagine you can't talk about it. But the ACLU is representing them.
I'm not worried about that. The true
Right.
facts will come out.
So I'm just wondering if
No.
you can't distinguish between who's a U.S. citizen and who is illegal. How can you?
We do distinguish.
How can you distinguish? Well, in that case, you clearly didn't.
No, that's what you're saying. How do you know we did not?
Because the person was arrested and they were an American
Well,
citizen.
let's look at the facts. Let's look at the facts.
Time
Yeah.
and
I
that
got-
issue is
Yeah, well, she's at, Anyway, that's something that hasn't been resolved, and the facts will come out on that.
confusing a
I
traffic
know.
citation with an arrest, and that's.
I know. Well, you're trying to, I can understand you haven't done a lot of research other than reading the newspapers and the Goldwater. I understand that, and I don't blame you. But I'm not here to talk about them. I think I gave you enough information.
I was just looking at the
I
documents
understand.
for that lawsuit.
Yeah, but that's how you get your information, because you haven't been here a long time to hang around with us to see how we operate. You have to get your information from
All right.
the newspaper.
That's good.
Anyway, thank